All right, welcome to the show. Today, we are tearing apart one of the biggest, most dangerous promises in the entire auto industry. We're not talking about horsepower, we're not talking about design. We're talking about the so-called self-driving revolution. But what you're going to find out today is that it's less of a revolution and more of a massive, terrifying controversy. We're going to peel back the layers of marketing hype and get to the cold, hard reality of what these systems are and what they're doing on our roads. Let's get right into it.
So it all starts with this incredible dream they sell you, right? A future where your car just drives. You can kick back, answer emails, watch a movie, whatever. Your commute becomes your personal lounge. And they tell you, for a price, you can have a piece of that future today. And that price, it's often a hefty one. We're talking about a $15,000 add-on. I mean, think about that. That's a huge chunk of change. It's an incredibly tempting offer. But what are you really buying? What does that money get you?
I want you to just read that, let it sink in. The horrifying reality is that you are not buying a robotic chauffeur, you are actually paying to become an unpaid, legally liable crash test dummy. This is the entire story in one sentence. This is the hook. This is the scam. You think you're buying a luxury, a piece of the future, a robot to drive you around, but what you are actually doing is paying a fortune for the privilege of beta testing unfinished, dangerous software. And the absolute worst part? When it inevitably fails, you, not the multi-billion-dollar company that sold it to you, are the one who's on the hook legally. It's absolutely terrifying.
$15,000. For most people, that is a life-altering amount of money. You could buy a perfectly good, reliable car for that. You could put a down payment on a house, but instead, people are handing it over for a software update. And the industry will tell you you're paying for cutting-edge tech, you're an early adopter, but the critics, and frankly the evidence, suggests something much darker. You're paying them to be their guinea pig. You are funding your own risk. It's an unbelievable business model when you think about it. Okay, so how do they get away with this? How do they convince millions of people to do this? Well, it all comes down to the gap, and I mean a chasm, between how this stuff is marketed and what it actually is. This is where the whole house of cards is built, right on this foundation of deceptive language. Look at this. On the left, you have these grand, sweeping promises. Full self-driving. I mean, come on, it says it right there in the name. Autopilot. What does that make you think of? An airplane, right? A system that actually flies the plane? A robotic chauffeur. But then you look at the technical reality. Full self-driving is actually a level 2 system. Autopilot is just a fancy name for driver assistance. The robotic chauffeur, yeah, it requires your full, undivided human attention at every single moment. This isn't just a little exaggeration. This is a fundamental misrepresentation of the product.
And this right here is the fine print they will use to destroy you in court. This is the definition of a level 2 system. Yes, it can steer and control the steed, but look at that last part. The human driver must stay fully engaged and monitor the environment at all times. So let me get this straight. You pay 15 grand for a system called full self-driving, but you are legally required to do all the things that constitute, driving. You have to watch the road, watch the car, be ready to grab the wheel in a split second. It's a contradiction so massive it's breathtaking. It's like selling someone a parachute and telling them they still have to flap their arms the whole way down, just in case.
And this is where it gets really, really ugly. Because this false sense of security that the marketing creates, it has consequences. Real-world, bloody consequences. It's a known psychological phenomenon called automation complacency. The system works 99% of the time, so your brain just naturally starts to check out. You trust it. And then in that 1% of the time when the AI gets confused, when it glitches, when it completely fails, disaster strikes. And believe me, it fails. This isn't some rare freak accident. Over 730. That's the number of crashes the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, has investigated that are directly linked to these level 2 systems. We're not talking about fender benders. We're talking about serious, life-altering crashes, incidents with severe injuries, and yes, fatalities. Over 730 families whose lives have been turned upside down because this unfinished tech is being tested on public roads. And look at how they fail. It's the stuff of nightmares. Phantom braking. The car just slams on the brakes for no reason on a clear highway. Can you imagine the chaos, the pileup that causes? Steering into concrete barriers, ignoring pedestrians, crashing into parked fire trucks and ambulances over and over again. And this last one, vision-only blindness.
Some of these companies, in a move that is just mind-boggling, decided to save a few bucks by removing reliable radar sensors and relying only on cameras. So what happens? Sun glare, a bright sky. The camera gets blinded and literally can't see the giant white side of a semi-truck crossing the road. It thinks it's the sky. It's not a glitch, it's a fundamental design flaw born from cutting costs, and people are paying for it with their lives.
And if you think this is just about consumer cars, you're wrong. Look at the dedicated robotaxi fleets they're testing in cities like San Francisco. It's chaos. They're freezing in the middle of intersections, blocking fire trucks on their way to emergencies. And in one absolutely sickening case, one of these cars hit a pedestrian and then it just froze. The algorithm didn't know what to do. So it defaulted to pulling forward, and it dragged the trapped human being 40 feet down the street. 40 feet. Because the AI just broke. These aren't edge cases. This is what happens when you release an experiment into the wild.
So, a crash happens. The AI fails. The unthinkable occurs. What happens next? This, to me, is the most diabolical part of the entire scheme. It's about liability. It's about who takes the blame. And believe me, these companies have engineered a brilliant and deeply cynical way to make sure it's never them.
It is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The car was steering. The software was in control. The marketing said it was full self-driving, so when it drives straight into a parked fire truck, who's at fault? The company that wrote the code, or the human who was told to trust it?
And here is their genius, twisted answer. It's called the legal crumple zone. You know how a car has a physical crumple zone? It's the part of the car designed to get destroyed in a crash, to absorb the impact and protect you, the passenger. Well, in this model, you are the crumple zone. You, the driver, have been engineered to be the legal shield. When their software fails, when their AI makes a fatal mistake, they don't blame their code. They blame you. They pull out that user agreement, the one nobody reads, and they point to that line about paying attention at all times. And just like that, it's your fault. You absorb all the legal, financial, and criminal liability. The corporation walks away clean.
And here is the hypocrisy in black and white. When the car successfully navigates a highway, the CEO is on stage at a tech conference, taking credit for an engineering miracle. They get the good PR, the stock price goes up, but when that same car crashes and someone dies, suddenly the narrative flips. It wasn't the AI's fault. No. The driver was negligent. They were distracted. They weren't paying attention. It's a perfect system for them. They take all the credit for the successes and assign all the blame for the failures. It is absolutely disgusting.
And they can get away with this because they are exploiting basic human psychology. That automation complacency we talked about, it's real. Your brain is not designed to be a vigilant supervisor for a machine that works perfectly 99.9% of the time. You will zone out. It is inevitable. And safety researchers have clocked it. It takes the average, attentive person about 3 full seconds to recognize that the AI has failed and actually retake physical control of the car.
3 seconds. It sounds like nothing, right? But do the math. At 70 miles an hour, your car is covering more than the length of a football field in those 3 seconds. So by the time your brain processes the error, sounds the alarm, and you lunge for the wheel, you've already traveled 300 feet. You're already in the crash. It's already over. They have designed a system where the required human reaction time is physically impossible in many scenarios. They have set you up to fail.
So this all brings us back to that fundamental question. Who is really in control here? And maybe more importantly, why is this allowed to happen? Why does the auto industry get to operate by a completely different set of rules than literally any other safety-critical industry on the planet?
I mean, just look at this comparison. If a pharmaceutical company started selling an unapproved experimental drug to the public, that's a federal crime. People will go to prison. Can you imagine getting on a Boeing 747 and the pilot comes on and says, "Hey folks, good news. We're going to be beta testing a brand new autopilot system on our flight to Denver today." It's insane. It is unthinkable. The regulations would never allow it. And yet, every single day, automakers are using our public roads, our neighborhoods, the highways our families drive on, as their own private, unregulated testing labs.
Because that's what this is all about. They are monetizing your risk. You pay them $15,000 for a feature, and in exchange, you become an unpaid data collector. Every mile you drive, every close call, every phantom braking event, and tragically, every crash. That's just data being fed back to their servers. You are helping them train their AI. You're paying for the privilege of doing their research and development for them, while shouldering 100% of the life and death risk.
So we're going to end on this, because it's the simplest, purest truth in this entire mess. Forget the marketing, forget the hype, forget the name they put on the back of the car. It all comes down to this. As long as you are legally forced to hold that steering wheel, as long as you are the one who is legally liable when it all goes wrong, the car is not driving itself. You are. Period.